Hey, welcome back to MR Fishing. Today I'm going to break down all of my tackle I'm going to be using when I get the kayak on the water for the first time next week. I'll be fishing next Monday, recording what I do, whether I do good or not. It's just going to be nice to get out on the kayak, kind of do a little bit of a tour of it, how I have it rigged up. And today I'm going to be talking about the lures I'm going to use when I'm out there. I got 6 rods I'm going to be taking, 6 reels, and pretty much only 7 different lure combinations. So it's going to try to keep it simple, even though it's a lot of rods and reels. The amount of lures that I'm throwing is going to be pretty minimal. Not going to be doing a lot of changing around. In fact, there's only 1 rod and reel setup. I'll do really any switching at all. So starting off, I got the rod and reel setup that I'll alternate a little bit, and that is my Chatterbait setup. So I'm going to be throwing some bladed jigs. I got 3 different colors I'm going to try out. I got green, red, blue, and some different trailers. I'm using Venom lures, their bladed jig, and then also for a trailer, like I did with my last unboxing video, I got the alternative lures, their shad style bait, and then I got some other trailers I'll try out, depending on the color of bladed jig I'm using. So that's the one setup with it. And then the second thing I'm going to use that rod setup for are some deep diving crankbaits. I have some fluorocarbon on that reel. It's a Apex Grand from Ardent, and it's a moderate fast action rod, so it's good for a couple different lures, and it'll be just fine to throw some more deep diving crankbaits. The place I'm fishing is a decent depth, so I've never really fished those because I used to be pretty much a shore fisherman exclusively, so I've never really got to try those out. So I'm excited to see how they work out, but it kind of just wind dependent for that setup, what I end up doing. Next one I have is a finesse setup. I have that with a 7-foot extra fast action, and for this one I'm going to be throwing pretty much all day just a Roadrunner jig. This one's from Blakemore. This is like the kind of original. There's lots of different copies out there, and I've found that the ones that are the best is not really brand dependent. It's just if they have a keeper on it. You can see that little bump right there. That's very important for keeping the soft body plastic you put on the back end of this on there longer. Basically a Roadrunner jig, which is the brand, but it's a horse head jig, and when you look at it, you can see it kind of looks like it's got a horse's head. You'll hear a lot of people call these underspins. Lots of different names, lots of different companies make them. I've used this style lure for well over a decade. I've caught tons of fish on it. It's kind of a spring staple, so I always have that rigged up when I go. So I got that on a spinning setup. And then next up I have my lipless crankbait rod. That's my Apex Elite. I've got some mono on that one actually. I like mono for lipless crankbaits. It's what has worked for me in the past. I know a lot of people will run fluorocarbon or sometimes braid, but mono's worked well for me with fishing around weeds. It's just made it easier. And I haven't had any trouble really with fish spitting the lure because I'm pretty good at judging when they're going to jump, because I've fished mono for so long. I know its weaknesses. And this one is one of the crankbaits I got from Alternative Lures last week. And I got a lot of lipless crankbaits, so I'll be throwing a bunch. But I'm going to probably go with this one most of the day just because the color pattern. It's a more natural one. The lake I'm fishing is pretty clear, so I'm going to try to kind of stay away from some of the more obnoxious colors of stuff that I have. Try to make things a little more natural. And then I have 2 other rods that I'm going to be using bait casting wise, and they're both going to be throwing jigs. And the one setup I'm going to have a little bit heavier flipping style, and that's going to be with an Ardent Arrow flipping reel, which is designed just for that. Something I got last week. I'm excited to get out on the water. I've been doing a lot of practice with it in my backyard. It's a nice little reel, and it's great for just short casts. Its bail design is made for that specifically, so it's a pretty cool setup. And then the other one I have is more of a finesse football jig, and I'll be throwing my Venom lures football jigs that I've gotten from them. and that one I have fluorocarbon on. It's a lot lighter setup, and the place I'm fishing is pretty clear water, like I said, so I'll probably be using that one a little bit more if I do end up throwing a jig. And on that one, I think I'm going to go with a Ned style. So for a trailer, I got tons of different options color-wise, but I think one I'll probably be throwing most of the day is going to be kind of like a green pumpkin, like this one right here. This one's a Venom Lures, and it's got a nice flake on it. It's good length, and it's also what I'm going to be throwing on my last finesse setup, which I have as a very light, medium light setup that I have just with a Ned rig style ready to go if conditions are kind of calm. I'm kind of sticking to mostly bait casting for this first time out because I know the wind might be a little much, and sometimes when you're doing finesse, wind can be a bit of a pain. So I'm probably going to use those early on in the morning, and when the wind picks up, I'll stick to my heavier setups. But I know I'm probably going to be throwing this lipless crankbait and then this Roadrunner jig. I imagine I'm going to be throwing these probably 70% of the time, depending on how the wind goes. And then the other stuff I'll kind of goof around with, just see what the fish are doing. It was just ice out last Saturday. So it's still going to be pretty cold water. So I'm going to try to stick to techniques that are pretty much tried and true. So like I said, below I'm going to comment all of my lures that I'm going to be using. I'll link Venom Lures, because that's where my bladed jigs and my football jigs are going to be coming from, along with some of the plastic trailers. And then alternative lures I'll link as well, because they'll have some of my trailers as well as crankbaits and just some other odds and ends stuff. I'm not going to do multiple links. Both of their stores are very easy to navigate, so I'll put their links below. And then of course I usually end up tagging Ardent Reels because I have, what am I up to now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm up to 5 of them. So they're great stuff, and just excited to get out on the water for the first time. I've been feeling like very cooped up this winter, more so than other ones, probably because I moved. Been a little busy with that. So it'll be nice to just kind of get out and enjoy nature a little bit after what seems like a really long winter. So check back next week for the results of my first time out. It might take me a little time to edit it. I'll probably record myself for about an hour and try to cut it down, hopefully, to the fish I catch. So have a good weekend, and until next time.